It was a morning like any other 66 million years ago.
In the lush floodplains of what we now call Montana, the air was thick with the scent of pine needles and damp earth.
A heavy mist clung to the ferns, slowly burning off as the sun climbed over the jagged horizon. The world was vibrant, loud, and alive. Through this prehistoric fog moved a shadow that sent silence rippling through the forest. This was Magnus, a fully grown Tyrannosaurus Rex, a 9-ton titan of muscle and bone.
He was the apex of evolution, a biological machine perfected over 100 million years.
When he exhaled, the steam from his nostrils looked like smoke from a furnace.
He lowered his massive, scarred head to a riverbank to drink, the water rippling around his reflection. He had no enemies. He had no fears. For Magnus, this was just another day in his undisputed kingdom.
Life was flourishing in every direction.
In the distance, herds of Triceratops grazed like cattle, their low rumbles vibrating through the ground.
The sky above was filled with the screech of Quetzalcoatlus, possessing wingspans like small airplanes.
The Cretaceous period was not a dying world. It was a masterpiece of biology at its absolute peak.
High above the atmosphere, silent and cold, a rock larger than Mount Everest was hurtling through space.
It was on a collision course calculated by gravity itself. This wasn't just an asteroid. It was a bullet aimed at the heart of the planet. In exactly 10 minutes, the reign of monsters like Magnus would end.
What you are about to see is not just a simulation. It is a reconstruction of the single worst day in the history of Earth.
You are about to witness the apocalypse through the eyes of those who lived it, minute by terrifying minute. Welcome to Prehistoric Planet 3D.
Before the sky falls and the world changes forever, make sure to hit that subscribe button to join our expedition. Now, take a deep breath. Look at the horizon. The sun is about to rise, twice.
2,000 miles south of Magnus, in the warm, turquoise waters of the proto-Gulf of
Azure was a 50-foot Mosasaurus, a serpentine queen of the ocean. She moved with effortless grace, her massive flukes propelling her through the sunlight dancing on the coral reefs below.
For her, the threat did not come from the deep. It came from above.
In the blink of an eye, the blue sky was torn open.
The asteroid punched through the atmosphere so violently that it created a vacuum tunnel.
It struck the shallow waters near what is now the Yucatan Peninsula. There was no splash. To call it a splash would be an insult to physics. When it made contact, the water did not have time to move. It was instantly flash-boiled into superheated steam. Azure never heard the sound. Sound takes time to travel, but light is instantaneous.
A flash of light, brighter than 1,000 suns, penetrated the ocean depths.
The asteroid smashed into the bedrock, drilling 20 miles deep into Earth's crust in a fraction of a second.
He lowered his massive, scarred head to a riverbank to drink, the water rippling around his reflection. For Azure, swimming 5 miles from ground zero, existence ended before her brain could process the pain. She was erased by a wall of pressure that boiled the sea, and pulverized her bones into dust.
Back in the Badlands of Montana, the morning was still deceptively peaceful.
Magnus raised his dripping snout from the river, sensing a shift in the air.
The insects had stopped buzzing. The wind had died down.
Nature has a way of sensing a storm before it breaks, but this was no storm.
Back in the Badlands of Montana, the morning was still deceptively peaceful.
It was not a gradual dawn. It was an instantaneous, blinding violence.
A dome of superheated plasma expanded over the Gulf of Mexico.
For a few seconds, the light from the impact was brighter than the actual sun.
Flocks of birds took to the air in a panic. Their navigation scrambled.
Magnus stood frozen, his small amber eyes dilated in shock.
He could not roar at this. There was no enemy to fight.
The light was merely the messenger. The real executioner was still on its way.
The silence was broken, not by a roar, but by a hiss.
In the open plains, Gaia, a 70-ton Alamosaurus, was the first to feel the change.
Her skin was thick, like armor, but it was no match for the thermal pulse.
The air temperature rocketed to over 400 degrees in minutes.
Her massive size, once her greatest defense, was now her death sentence.
The forest exploded into a wall of orange. Gaia collapsed, her strength finally gone.
The reign of the giants was being burned away, leaving nothing but charcoal and bones.
For those who survived the flash and heat, one final cruelty was coming.
It was the sound. A planetary scree racing across the continent.
He looked south and saw a visible ripple in the air racing toward him. It snapped giant redwoods like dry twigs, pulverizing boulders into sand.
Magnus planted his massive feet to brace himself, roaring in defiance at the oncoming storm.
But physics does not care about courage. The shockwave hit with the force of a freight train.
The majestic landscape was wiped clean, transformed into a smoldering wasteland. After the fire and the fury came the ghost. The sun was now gone completely.
Billions of tons of soot and vaporized rock plunged the planet into darkness.
Deep within a limestone crevice, Swift the Dakotaraptor emerged from shelter.
He stepped into a monochrome nightmare, the vibrant Cretaceous gone.
He called for his pack, but the only answer was the dead wind.
As the centuries passed, Magnus's body was buried, turning to stone.
From a deep burrow emerged a small mammal, the future's unlikely survivor.
Because the dinosaurs fell, the mammals rose. Their end was our beginning.